You're listening to the NeuroSpice Life podcast.
I'm Hanna, sexologist, sensologist, lovable weirdo, oversharer, and not sorry about it.
And I'm Freya, a lexithymic counsellor, mum, chaos wrangler, and happy little steamroller.
Whether you're neurotypical or neurodiverse, our podcast is for everybody and every brain that has ever been labelled.
Welcome back to You Are Talking with Hanna.
And Freya.
And today we are going to talk about self-centered. And I know that in a 30-year friendship, almost 30-year friendship, we have been up and down through what this actually means to us.
Yes.
I know that you've got some experiences about this. Do you want to talk about that?
Well, yes. First, I love the fact that it's, to start with, all about me. Like, that's amazing. Like, keeping me in my happy place. But yeah, like, this is a big one for me, I think. And like, for me, such a point of frustration and disconnect, because I'm someone that cares really deeply about people, reflected in, career change and being a counsellor, right? You don't do that work unless you are really...
Unless you give a crap.
Unless you actually care, right? If you don't, it's time to move on, right? But at the same time, like, a lot of frustration in my life about appearing misunderstood or stuff being made about me. And it's not actually the intent of what's going on, but not understanding that. So feeling rejected by a lot of people, and people feeling really frustrated with me, like, oh, it's all about her again, or, not feeling seen or heard. But like, it's not through lack of trying, and it's just me showing things different ways. And probably like the biggest parts for me in that are like the ability to recognize faces or even remember faces, but then also to put a name to that face. And like, this is like a story that I share all the time because it's mortifying. But like, literally, I moved desks in a corporate office, and it was like a big corporate bullpen area, right, with like the low, like, open plans, so like low screens everywhere. And I was sitting next to a guy for 6 weeks, right, and like calling him Colin every day. Happy days, right, fine. Would you like a cup of coffee? I'm heading to the kitchen. Can I do anything for you? Like,
Hey,
like,
Colin, can I do something for you? Yeah, Colin, can I get your coffee?
All that, like, all the time, like every day, like, and me using the name repeatedly to put the name in my head. And then like one day I'm standing there, and his friend wanders over, who's like this really big, like, ochre bloke who cycled into work, and he's like full, like, comes in his cleats and his cycle gear, right, and wanders over all the rest of it. I said, I'm just going to the kitchen to get a coffee, Colin. Can I get you a coffee? And he goes, Colin? Who the is Colin? And I'm like, how could you not know Colin? You've been friends for years. He goes, Colin, his name's Frank. And just like the mortification, and the name was so...
I can just imagine your face too.
Like, oh, my
You would
God.
have been horrified.
Absolutely horrified. But then also as well, like, the name was so embedded, I just turned around and I'm like, Colin, why didn't you tell me? Like, it was in there. So that's now like the standard. I think that is the record from anybody, but like, it happens all the time, so much. And
so you could have worked at Starbucks.
Right, exactly. It would have been a nightmare. Or like, but it means also like I'll bump into somebody out of context, right? I'll see somebody out of context. I will literally have no idea who they are. So I'll be like fishing around in the dark. I now have learned as well, like, I don't say to people, nice to meet you, because that's apparently really offensive if you've met them like 6 or 8 times before, and been to their house. And, and you're like, yeah, I've met your dog, I know your child, and I'm saying nice to meet you. So like, I will now say to people, like, it's great to see you.
Yeah.
Good to see you, and stuff like that. So like, there's that side of it. And then it's also, how I express my love and affection is very, very different. I bring stories back to myself. I have different love languages and stuff like that. So yeah, I could go on all day, but I'm actually going to give you a chance
on and on.
about me. But I thought I'd give you a chance. Yeah, what's your experiences with it?
I mean, I have similar things. I remember being at a home show back in another career, and someone came into the stall where I was working, and they said, oh, hey, Hanna, it's so good to see you. And I looked at them, and because I'm so good at masking, I was able just smile, hi, and meanwhile it's like the duck analogy, I was calm on the outside, my brain was racing, like, who are you, who are you? And it took me, I'm not very proud of this to say, but it took me probably about a week and a half, probably at about 3 a.m. in the morning, where it clicked and I went, oh, that's who you are. Because it was out of context of the scenario that I normally see this person. I only ever saw this person in one scenario.
Right.
So it's outside of the scenario. They were with different people, and it was somebody that I both met in high school and then later on as an adult, which again was quite strange. So knowing that I knew this person, it was actually filling me with this feeling of dread. And luckily, because I was working, I was able to use the excuse of, oh, I'm sure I will see you soon.
Yeah.
It was great to see you again.
Yeah.
And so it was.
But the whole time you're like, mate, bro, like,
Yeah.
not
Oh,
using the,
you know, oh,
not
this is
using
my
the-
wife. Oh, hi, nice to meet you. Oh, you know, and this is, you know, da da da. And it was very, and I just wish that there'd been some context. So sometimes I will, if I know I'm going into a situation where I know that I will know people, but I cannot remember their names, I will set up a call signal with whoever I'm with. So if it's my husband, if it's a friend, whatever, and I'll tug my ear. And that's a sign of, please introduce yourself.
Yeah.
So that I don't have to stand there going, oh, this is my husband and this is, oh dear God, I'm so sorry. And needing to step through that really horrible thing because it makes the other person feel, you can see it on their faces.
Like
and
I wasn't memorable, like I wasn't important
and
enough.
it makes me feel horrendous.
Yeah.
So.
And it's so funny as you say this too, like for context as well, for years, I was like, she's so good at remembering people. Like, and when you go places with Hanna, right, too, like everyone remembers her and everyone's got amazing things to say. And she's got like 6,000 friends on social media and she knows who everyone is and all. So for like me, I was like, oh my God, this is the gold standard. So the two of us would be like at so many different events and people would come up and I'd be like, who is that? And it's like, I don't know. Like, and neither of us could remember. It was so funny. But like, I thought for ages that you were actually really good.
I could. I used to work in a photo lab and people would come and drop their photos off in the morning and then come back, you know, 6-7 hours later, sometimes a day later. And I'd be like, oh, hey, you know, Simon, how you doing? And they'd look at me and they're like, I don't know you. And I'm like, no, but I remember you for some bizarre reason. And so it just depends on what is memorable about the person that I associate. And then my brain makes the connection.
Yeah.
But it's funny because birthdays are a really difficult one for me because I have time blindness and that includes dates.
Yep.
So, you know, what day is it? What year is it? You know, what month am I in? And sometimes, and I felt horrific about this, I forgot my godmother's birthday.
Yeah.
And you know what our relationship is like.
Yeah, super
4
close.
days later.
Yeah.
And I rang almost in tears because I was so like, I self-hatred was probably the term at the time.
Yeah.
And so guilty that somebody's so important to me. And they understood and it was lovely, but I'm sure they were probably a little bit hurt on the day.
Yeah. But
it was never, ever done intentionally. And similarly, when I forgot to book my husband's restaurant or forgot to book a restaurant for my husband's birthday, I had it on my screen. I'd gone through the steps. I'd asked a question and there was an inconsistency or like an ambivalent response.
Yeah.
And I went, oh, well, I'll just put that aside for the moment until we have an answer. And then I forgot to go back and actually book it. So we're driving to the restaurant. And on the way there, I'm thinking, oh my God.
Did I book it?
I don't remember getting an email about the confirmation of the booking. And this place always sells out of tables. So we got there and of course there was no booking and it was probably the worst feeling that I had. And all I wanted to do was make it okay in the moment.
Yeah.
Not smooth it over, but make it up somehow and let them know how much I love them and how much I was really sorry. And, you know, it's so difficult in that moment because everybody's feeling their feelings.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, all you can do is step through it, breathe through it, talk through it, and then go, well, what can I do instead?
Yeah. But for them, they're like feeling a little bit like I don't matter enough or I'm not important enough for you to remember or for you to do this. And that's not necessarily
the case at all.
What's happened at all.
Yeah. So, and that's just been the running theme. So, I mean, now I've set up
so many systems. The calendar is wild.
Work
folks.
emails, work calendars, personal calendars. I have reminders set because I know what it's like when people forget my birthday and I never want to do that to somebody else. Yeah. So.
See, and I'm on the other hand, I'm just like the asshat who's like, I will not remember birthdays. And it's like I can put it in a calendar, but like literally, like I will like look at the calendar and go, oh, I've got to message so-and-so for their birthday. But then if I don't do it in the moment, like it is just,
it's gone.
It's gone. And so for me, I just find it easy to say, look, I'm really sorry. I'm not going to be that friend that's going to remember your birthday, right? Like if that's important to you, like, please remind me, or let's book something in the diary in advance to celebrate it. And I will tell you on the day of the thing that we have booked. But like, yeah, for me, it's just, and it's not through like lack of attention. Like the other week, literally I was with a friend and it was like, oh, so-and-so's birthday's this weekend. I'm like, oh, cool, I must remember to message them. Did I? And then like 2 weeks later, I was like, oh shit, it was their birthday 2 weeks ago. I've completely forgotten. And it's like, it happens. And so for me, it's like the systems just, I find for me, don't work. And it's like, I love that your systems work for you, but I just...
Most of the time.
Most of the time. But like, yeah, for me, I just go, no, now. I'm just like, no, it's, I can't do it.
Can we talk about your birthday?
No. Absolutely not. We do not have time to talk about that.
Well, here's the thing. For a number of years, you would tell me what you wanted for your birthday.
Yeah.
But I would never believe you.
Yeah.
Because I had what I would consider to be pathological consideration. So it's this, when somebody tells you what they want.
Believe them, folks.
Listen to them and believe them. Because if somebody says, I don't want to do anything for my birthday, and then they get mad at you for not doing anything for your birthday, that's on them.
Yes,
for their birthday, that's on them.
That's not me, folks.
But if somebody says, oh, look, I don't want to do much, I just want to have a quiet night in with some takeaway and a movie, and you organise a surprise party because you think that surely they can't do that, surely, and it's this bizarre kind of projection of your own desires that you want somebody to do something amazing and over the top and just like from the movies. And I think for a period of time, I would try and just go the extra mile. I would try to make it a little bit more, a little bit extra. And then I would have this idea of that they were going to be so happy and they would feel so loved and so...
For the record, I was not.
So amazing. And then and then when they didn't feel that way, when there wasn't this sort of gratitude or, oh my God, thank you so much, I would feel deflated because I feel like I'd failed. When the reality was, if I had just listened, it would have
been different.
Been much better.
And like, I mean, to be fair to you too, right, the other thing that makes me such a special little sparkly bundle of joy too, right, is the alexithymia elephant in the room, which we'll talk about a little bit as well. But like, I am not an outwardly emotional person. Like so alexithymia is basically where the emotions in your brain meet cognition. And so what that means for me, like when I'm experiencing emotions and stuff like that, and I have been called things like a robot, serial killer, like, autonomous, there's a word I can't say, automaton.
Yeah, automaton.
There we go. We'll have to try to edit tidy that up. 30 minutes of me trying to say a word. But
it's like saying abominable.
Oh God, don't get me to try. But like, yeah, getting that really, and I can feel quite cold or aloof with people. And like in another episode, like if everyone's been listening along, there's like Spanny was getting quite emotional and tearing up in here, and I'm just like,
Spanny is my nickname.
Oh yeah, Hanna. Sorry, yeah. It's like she's getting quite emotional in here, and I'm just like not like, it's like
I cannot relate.
I cannot relate to this, and it's so weird. It's like in my head, it's like I recognize the emotion in you, right? And yes, you can be an alexithymic counselor. It is possible, but like I can recognize the emotion in you, and I can see it in you, and I can help you process that and work through that and hold space for that emotion. But it's like that's your emotion. It's like it's in a bubble over there. I do not feel it. So if you've lost someone really important in your life, and this has happened, over the time of our friendship, unfortunately, many times, but like, you've lost somebody and you'll cry or you'll be upset about that. I won't cry with you.
No.
I won't, if you're really excited about something, you're feeling amazing, something, like I will not jump in the car and go for a ride with that emotion because like I actually can't. It's like that's your emotion. If we lose someone that's important to both of us,
that's a different story.
I will cry with you because it's related to me also. And so, so it's quite an interesting thing to explain. I remember sitting in a supervision session for counselling and explaining it to my supervisor, who was not neuroaffirming in any way. And I'm explaining it, and she's like, "Oh, it's childhood trauma." And I'm like, "No, it's not. This is the diagnosis. Like, this is what it actually is." And she just kept like having this narrative around it's a defensive mechanism. And I lost it. And I was like, literally, if somebody comes to you and tells you they're colorblind, do you relate that to like childhood trauma? She's like, no, that would be stupid. I'm like, same thing. But it's so hard to understand often for people too. And so like other people be tearing up in a room or getting emotional about something. and I will just be like, ice cold, like stone cold, and for me, it's almost like a respect thing too. It sounds weird because that's your emotion. That's not mine to steal.
Yeah.
But yeah, it can come across,
which is
as
interesting
quite
because we are
strange.
talking about self-centered, right?
Yeah.
So what you're doing in that moment, in both from a physiological perspective and from a psychological perspective, is you're just actually just holding space.
Yeah. But it can come across like I just actually don't care about you at all.
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, that's a really interesting thing. And it's like she'll only have emotions if it's related to her. And I'm like, yeah, kind of. a little bit. But yeah, it's just one of those really interesting things and like point of difference. And I love that about the two of us too. It's like they need emotion, like Hanna, go in there.
I am all the emotion. I will cry at the drop of a hat. I will cry at the opening of a letter. I mean, it depends on what the letter is. If it's a bill, I'll definitely cry.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that there's so much when you look back and you've got that beautiful opportunity to have hindsight.
Yeah.
As well. Things like when people are talking about something deeply personal or might be really important to them, and I'm stimming or fidgeting or I'm not making eye contact or things like that, because I don't know how they want me to respond.
Yeah.
And so I also have an internal dialogue going on of, am I showing enough emotion? Am I showing up for them? Am I
doing too much emotion?
Am I doing too much?
Making eye contact, is it the right amount? Have I blinked? Have I looked at the left eye and the right eye equally?
Yeah, I'm also like, I think, and parts of me as well struggle with authenticity. So wanting to show up for the person, wanting to be there, wanting to be authentic. And then also regulating my emotions is a part of alexithymia as well. And, I have difficulty recognizing all of my emotions because sometimes they just feel like a flood.
Yeah.
And of course, in a flood, you can't really pick any one single thing out. They're all just kind of mushed together.
And it's overwhelming. It's like a wave.
Yeah. And so it's often kind of a bit of an internal battle of just being there and showing up for the person. I've also just found that sitting there and just holding someone's hand and just being in silence, it's okay. You don't have to talk.
Yeah.
And you don't have to make it all better.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
it's giving the space. And also as well, like, don't touch me. There's another episode on that. But no, it's so true, right? And holding that space. But it's interesting, like in your head, like the dialogue's like, how do I tone this down? How do I not make this all about me? How do I not like my big feelings, my big emotions and my empathy override this conversation? And for me, I'm like, please God, look human. Just like, just for a moment, But it's that difference, right? And you can have two people again with the same thing, that deep, deep desire for connection and, and seeing what's going on, but having to do so much moderation on it. And it's really funny, like a lot of the clients that I work with too, right? They get really, really frustrated with traditional talk therapy and a lot of traditional counselling because a lot of them have either got are either alexithymic or they also have just lower levels of interoception, which is that ability to interpret what's happening in your body and understand what's going on. So often they won't recognise an emotion until it's an 8 out of 10 or till it's a 9 out of 10, till it's a 10 out of 10. So that's the thing of like, you'll be going through the day and somebody will be like, are you pissed off at me? Are you angry at me? Are you mad at me? And you'll be like, no, I'm fine. And then like you'll be slamming the fridge door and, and shouting later at something really benign. But it's been simmering all day and your body's been telling you you're annoyed, but you haven't been able to recognise it and interpret those signals. So things
which is difficult because when you tell me that, it sounds like passive aggressiveness.
Yeah, which it's literally not at all. It's like I just don't know that that's actually happening. So same thing as like, and you relate it back this way, people go, oh, but like, you're hungry, but you haven't eaten all day. You haven't interpreted those hunger signals. As I've said that, my stomach's just done a rumble, which is really interesting to me. But like, you don't interpret that until you're hangry, right? Yeah. You don't interpret the thirst signals until you're super thirsty or, you need to go to the bathroom until it's urgent. It's the same thing related to emotions.
Yeah.
But it's because it's all of those internal signals. And if you think about emotions, it's chemical signals that are happening in our body and physiological responses tied with thoughts. And we'll cover this in a lot more detail, I think, in another episode we've got. But you've got all of those things happening, and so many of my clients get so frustrated with talk therapy. It's like, there's only so much I want to actually talk about the emotion. I want practical strategies. I want things I can actually do so that I don't have to keep feeling like this, that analytical power, that problem solving capability. Yeah. It's like, well, it's one thing to talk about always being sad, always being angry or feeling overwhelmed, there's only so much help that will offer. It's like, what are some things I can actually do to address the root cause?
Yeah. It's like when I was seeing my therapist,
Yeah.
and they were telling me what was going on with my brain. And I was like, that's great. What do I do?
Yeah. How do I?
And so, coming up with my own solutions was fantastic in the sense of it meant that it put the onus on me to fix my own problems, which is it's the way it should be in a lot of ways, and still be able to ask for help where needed. But knowing what biologically is going on in my brain, the chemicals that are being released, it didn't help me understand more about my situation or practically change the way that I felt.
Mm-hmm.
It was more just that, oh, your brain's not feeling safe. Great.
What do I do with that? How do I make my brain feel safe?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it was a good process to go through, and I think that when it comes to therapy and also having those experiences and moving and doing something practical, there's so many different things that you can do on top of that.
Yeah.
That can be so helpful.
Yeah, and it's also like, I mean, it's one of the things I love about like us autistic people too, right? Like, is that, we want to fix things, we want to do things, right? And so like if someone's, feeling an emotion, it's like, was this the time you want to talk about it and just have that space, or do you want to actually do something about it? Both answers are fine. Both answers are valid. But like we will often lean to the doing because that's more comfortable for us. That's easier to also understand than necessarily like processing. Like how many flavors of sad are there? And the answer is like 27.
Well, it's like if you're in a relationship, if you live with family, if you have a cohabiting situation that you feel comfortable with, it's 3 H's. If somebody is venting to you, you can ask them, do you need help?
Mm-hmm.
Do you need to be heard?
Yeah.
Or do you need a hug?
Yeah.
And I think that's such a beautiful way to allow somebody to feel seen in that moment, to go, yes, this person's going to be here for me, but they're asking me how I want them to show up for me right now.
I love that.
Rather than this presumption of, I know what's best, or I feel uncomfortable in this situation right now, so I'm going to give you a whole bunch of practical tips for you to go away and
let's get out of it.
And let's get out of it, because I don't want to sit in this discomfort, which is, because of the name, uncomfortable.
It's on the label. It is what it is. But what I love about that too, right, is when I think about our brains as well, and when we're in states where we're experiencing big emotions or big feelings too, right, lots of choices can be paralyzing. So just that simplicity of, do you want help? Do you want
to be
heard or a hug? There you go. Yeah. That's my name brain in action right there. It's like stuck on that. But help, heard or hug, right? It's 3 really simple, discrete choices.
Yeah.
And it
could be all 3.
It can be all 3, but like it makes it a little bit less overwhelming than, when somebody says, what help do you need? And you're like, what do you want right now from me? It can be like hard to articulate, especially if we're in that flooding state or in that big state.
And it just gives you that ability to pause and say, what do I need in this moment? And I think as well with neurodiverse people is when we get called self-centered and we actually break it down, it's generally because there's a need or there's an accommodation that's being requested that isn't typical, or it might be a little bit harder.
Yeah.
And so I remember I just started a new project, and this person that I worked with in a previous team had just rejoined, and she'd taken a slightly senior role. And as we were talking, and she said to me, so how do you like to work? And I said, what do you mean? And she said, well, how do you, is there anything that you need from me? Which is really lovely. And a lot of the managers I've had recently have started taking on this fantastic tone, which is not what can you do for me? It's what can I do for you?
Yeah.
And as we were chatting, and I just recently been diagnosed, and I said, oh, well, actually I've got ADHD. And she paused and she said, oh, that's actually really good for me to know. She said, okay, well, how do you like to work? And I said, well, I can get a little bit sidetracked sometimes. Sometimes I go on quests. Sometimes I get lost in the weeds. If you see that happen, you can just tap me on the shoulder, pull me out of it, and then like redirect me, and I'll go focus my energy over there. And she said, oh my God, that's so fantastic for me to know. If there's anything else I can do for you, if there's any other considerations, let me know.
Yeah. Amazing.
I got off the phone and I cried.
Shocker.
Because
like
it was
you've been
so
seen.
touching.
Yeah.
Because that's not how other people have operated in the past before. It is, oh, that's how you operate. That's how you work. It's not how I do it, so you need to change.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm getting teary now.
You're getting teary. And I am not. But no, but it's that creating that space, right? And it's that asking how, it's basically saying, how can we better work together, right? And find that common ground, right? And that support. Yeah, it's really lovely. And as you said that too, it reminds me of Sashi taking it back to herself. More on that in a moment. But it's how we pebble. But it's, when I was to work in a team, and this is before I knew what my diagnosis was, and I had a big team, and it was a hugely massive, high profile pressure program, touching thousands of staff members and organisational change. And it was huge, and had a really high performing, incredible team, and we're doing a lot of team building and stuff, and similar conversations, like, what can I do to better support you? And creating that space where they could speak up and actually go, well, you know what? I love the tangents, I love the glitter, I love the ideas and all that sort of stuff. But what would be really helpful is if you can signpost it and say, this is just an idea, you don't need to take action on it, because they were getting I was coming out with 1,001 ideas every week, and they're like, well, what are we including?
Which one is it?
Which one is it? What are we doing? And then, of course, by Wednesday, I will have forgotten about it, and they're working on it, right? Which would have been frustrating as hell. But creating that space and being able to do that, and so now I'd come up with an idea, and then they're like, is this something we actually need to work on, Freya? Is this something we need to pick up? And we go, no, it's just an idea. And then they had a little whiteboard that they stuck on our team board over to the side, and it was Freya's idea, Freya's idea bank, and just put stuff up there, because it might be valuable later. It might come in later, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But it also gave them a clear thing to go, we don't actually need to take action on that. And it sounds really silly. And that was an accommodation for them based on my neurodiversity, if that makes sense.
It does.
But I didn't know what I was dealing with at the time. I didn't know why my brain was working the way it was. But, it can be that two-way street.
Yeah. That's why we have a parking lot and workshops.
Yeah.
But I like Freya's idea bank much better.
And it's a parking lot. Freya's idea bank. I love it. But yeah, it's really interesting to talk about that too, right? And relating the stuff back to ourselves. And there's a lot of theories around, I guess, why that happens. And there's a few different suggestions around it. And one's this idea of parallel empathy, which is creating empathy through a shared experience. Yeah. So by you you saying, this is what's happened to me, and I'm like, oh, I've got one that's similar. It's almost like we experienced the same thing, even though I didn't know you then, right? Yeah. Or you were there. It's it's that kind of thing. Another one is one of our strengths is being associative thinkers often, right? And it's that ability to join dots. And I kind of talk about this often of this thing that happens in my brain when people talk. And it's things light up on a map. And, I can see connections that other people may not be able to, and it's literally things light up in my imagined vision box, in front of me. And, when people hear it, hear a story or that sort of stuff, the same thing happens. And, I'm recognizing patterns and seeing that. And it's my way of saying, I get you, but let me explain the logic behind why I get you and stuff like that. So I don't know if either of those things are true. Apparently also it helps us to process emotion in real time and self-regulate. So
that makes sense.
If you're sharing a story and all that sort of stuff. But there's a lot of different ideas, and I don't think anyone's fully understood why we do what we do.
Yeah.
And why we bring things back to ourselves. But it is a common pattern and a common trend.
Yeah. Because I've been in similar situations where both on the receiving end and also being the giver.
Yeah.
Where the impression from somebody else, if they just join a conversation and you're talking about one topic, and then apropos of nothing, they start talking about themselves, or a situation that is potentially tangentially linked somewhere in the universe, but it's connected in their brains.
Yeah. Not visible to anyone else.
And so, we've had friends like that over the years where it's been sort of like we've been able to see it. And so there's been that impression that person is actually quite self-centered, when the reality is that they've joined something. They might not feel comfortable about it, but they do feel comfortable talking about themselves. And so they got branded with the self-centered or self-absorbed.
And coming from us folks, that's a pretty it's a high bar.
Hot kettle black.
Yes. Yeah.
Whereas on the other side is that I know that when I've been doing my pebbling with somebody else, is they may not want me to share a question, like a part of myself. Yeah. They may be looking for me to ask them questions about them. And so then there's been the other side where I've been labeled as self-centered because it almost is interpreted as though it's a competition.
Yes.
Like, oh, well, my situation's worse than yours.
It's not a story. This is a story.
I used to live in a cardboard box, you know. You had a cardboard box?
Lucky you, yeah.
And so there can be a presumption of one-upness if your story is, for whatever reason, worse, or you're trying to, you know, potentially talk to somebody who had a horrific thing happen to them and said, well, last week I hurt my knee.
Not the same. Yeah, for sure.
So it's, I guess at the end of the day, the motivations behind it, you can label somebody as that, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they are, because I think intention has everything to do with it.
Yeah. And it's interesting you talk about the label, right? And that's the definition of it is that you're preoccupied with oneself and one's affairs. And, you know, if we talk about those things like the face blindness, right, and the inability to recognise names and faces, and that can appear that you're not registering other people, relating stories back to yourself, right? That's another thing that can also appear on the outside to be self-centered and to meet that definition. Yeah. And then there's also as well the love languages and how we express love. And Hannah's been referring a little bit to pebbling in this, and I love that. But like when we express love and affection, and there's these great neurodivergent love languages, you can find them on Stimpunks and a few other different places as well, right? But the traditional love languages I think came out of like Gottman therapy, which were like words of affirmation, acts of service, physical touch, quality time, receiving gifts, you know, those types of things as a way of expressing and showing love. But in neurodivergent land, there's actually different ways that we express love and affection, which for someone outside might seem completely loopy, right? So we've got info dumping, and that is like my go-to. All right, that is...
I will tell you all about my favourite thing right now.
All the things about my favourite thing or my latest interest or what I've done today and the things I've learned. And it's like the way I describe this is like I'm a little squirrel that's like collecting my knowledge nuts, you know, and putting them there for the winter, right? And if you're really special and you're another squirrel and I like you very much, I will give you some nuts. You may not have asked for the nuts. You may not want the nuts. You may have no idea what to do with the nuts that I've
You may already have too many nuts and you don't know what to do with these ones.
But I will give you more because it's my way of showing I love you. And it's like, and it's, again, that can kind of be like the gifts a little bit. And it's so funny, like I now explain this to people, and I was with another mum and we were going around a wildlife park, and a passion area of mine is animals, always has been. I had no idea how much knowledge I had accumulated around animals until like every exhibit we'd get to, and I'd be like, do you know wombats poo in cubes? And like you literally like every single thing. And the mum's like, oh wow, it's like having our own tour guide of the zoo. And I'm like, oh, I need to explain what's going on here, because it can come across like really arrogant, like, you know, and like
everything.
Look at me and I'm amazing, and it's actually not that at all. And I explained what it was, and she's like, oh, that's so cute. That's, you know, that's really gorgeous, you know. And then, you know, that ability to invite space for others to participate in that is a big one. Parallel play, and this can also include body doubling.
Yeah, I love body doubling.
Mad for it, right? I love our little, so sometimes during the week we'll have a, we call it a focus pod time in her calendar. And in my calendar, it will be called SHIT. To
be fair, it's before work hours.
It is before work hours, but just in case anyone looks at your calendar. And for me, it'll be called the SHIT list. And it's like we basically make a list of all the horrible things we don't want to do. And we sit there with a Teams meeting open and a cup of coffee, and like we don't necessarily even talk. And it's like if you walked into the room, it is the weirdest thing.
It's two people, one in the room, one on screen, and both doing completely different things.
Not talking, not interacting in any way, shape, or form.
They really have to be around tax time,
right? So. But like, yeah, that just, it's like you're there and you're not there. And we're on other opposite sides of the country as well. Like we live a 5.5 hour, 4 hour flight, 4.5 hour flight away from each other, right? And so, you know, just that ability to do that. But if you were to look at that from the outside, you would be like,
okay,
back away slowly. Like, what? Do they know they've left their Teams open or like their Zoom meeting open? And that's a big one. And even like the parallel play, like playing next to each other.
Yeah.
and doing completely different things. So for ages, like me and my hubby, we've been together now 23 years in January, which is, I can't believe I'm that old. But like people would come in and be like, the idea of what quality time is, and we'd be sitting there and like he might be playing a video game and I'd be reading a book and we'd be sitting in the same room. This is obviously when we had time before children. But like we'd be sitting in the same room doing those things and people would be like, you're not even talking to each other, you're not interacting, but he's engaging his passion areas of interest. I'm doing it in mine, but we're doing it next to each other.
Yeah.
And it was the most magical thing. Like, yeah, how we didn't know sooner is wild. But
it's pretty funny.
It's pretty funny. But parallel play is a big one.
Yeah, and I find that as well. Like I'll often go to my mum's and help her clean out her closet.
Yeah.
Because I think when a task gets so overwhelming, just having somebody there, they don't even need to be helping you with the task, but just having them in the room just really helps you stay on track, stay focused, but you can also have fun at the same time.
Yeah.
And I swear to God, and I don't know if it's like parallel timelines or something along those lines or the Mandela effect, where there's a word I heard once and it's a Scandinavian word and it's where you invite people to come along and do your most boring,
like grocery shopping, like your mundane stuff, and spend time together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so
I love that.
It's such a strange thing because a lot of my American friends are like, that's weird. Like, why? Like when I hang out with my friends, I want to have fun with them. Why would I invite them to do the boring thing? It's like, well, it makes the boring thing more fun. It
makes the boring thing more fun, and you actually have a chance to connect.
And if you happen to go to Costco at the same time and come home with hilarious, massive Halloween decorations, I mean,
or giant containers of cheesy snacks,
so be it.
Whatever that might be. I love that, and that kind of links in, I think, to support swapping as well, or spoon swapping. And this to me is like the ultimate act of love, and I'm always asking this, like, how can I help you? And, and again, leaning into that space, but that idea of spoon swapping of like, this is hard for you or this is going to take you energy or effort. So it's like, it's easy to clean out your mum's closet, but it's hard to clean out your own, right? And it's like, it's that ability to go, you know what, this is hard for you, but this is easy for me.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do this bit. Like, so I plan all the holidays in our house because I'm really good at it. I find it exhausting towards the end of it with the attention to detail and the dates and stuff, but I'm good at it and I can get it done really, really quickly. Hubby, amazing at tax and accountancy. He doesn't necessarily love it, but he finds it easy. And he knows for me that's like, it will just never happen.
Yeah.
Ever. Right? Like there was one time I said, I can do this myself, independent woman. And there was screaming and crying and full meltdown. I think I made it 6.5 minutes into the tax portal, which, sure.
No, that's fine. Enough.
But like, working out what your strengths are, what the things you are really good at and how you can take that load. So it's like you might look at things and go, well, that's not really an affectionate thing, but it's actually I'm helping you and you're helping me.
Yeah.
And it's this lovely, fair and equitable swap or trade.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think, in any relationship, there has to be give and take, right? Because if it's just one person doing everything, that's the human giver syndrome.
Yeah.
Which again is something that Amelia and Emily Nagoski wrote about. And the human giver syndrome, I mean, that's where you hit burnout, right?
Mm.
And again, coming back to those expectations, are you giving because somebody is asking you to give or they expect you to give, or are you giving because you think you're expected to give?
Yes.
And ironically, I mean, they're actually two completely separate frameworks.
Yeah.
And so if you can start breaking it down and coming back to that, pathological consideration element, if you have, and it could be because of the environment you grew up in, you might have been in a family that you were expected to be the peacekeeper, you were the mediator, or you were the person that was always considered to be a little bit more difficult or self-centered to deal with because you had different needs.
Yeah.
You were always expected to give ground.
Yeah.
The more ground you give, the harder it is one day when you just hit that wall to give the ground, even if it's reasonable, even if it's a compromise. And I think that it just gets to a point where you just don't want to give
anymore.
And I think when it comes to self-centered, particularly if you have a look and go, am I doing this because this person has asked me to do it?
Yeah.
There was a story that a friend of mine, their ex-partner had a friend that was quite sick. They had really bad flu. And so they rang them and said, I'd like to come over and, I've made all these muffins for you and I've got this wellness kit. And she said, don't come over. I don't want to see anybody.
Yeah.
She said, no, I really want to come over. I really want to see you. Or, I really want to give you this thing. And the friend said, do not come over. I do not want to see anyone. I am not well.
Yeah.
And this ex rocked up and knocked on the door. And the friend opened it and said, I told you not to come over. She said, no, I really wanted to come over. I really wanted to be here. Here's my wellness basket for you. And the friend just went, thanks, and was about to close the door. And she's like, no, like, I'm here.
Yeah.
I made this, I did this thing for you.
Yeah.
And the friend was like, I asked you not to. I said I didn't want to see you. You didn't listen to my boundaries.
Yeah.
And so, the result of that was the ex felt as though that, they had expected this. Oh my God, thank you so much. You're amazing. And, you're just such a giver and you're so, wonderful. And when that didn't happen, it was actually quite a self-centered thing to do at the end of the day, because you weren't doing it for somebody else.
You were doing the whole thing for you.
Because you wanted the praise and the validation.
Yeah.
And that can actually be such, like, if you've ever come across that moment, you've had that just, oh my God, when you stop doing it, it is the best feeling, because all of a sudden you realize, one, you have more space.
Yeah.
And other people feel heard. And you're not seeking for validation, because that validation is coming from yourself.
Yeah. I love that. And often too, people can end up in a situation as well where they're giving more in a relationship or giving more and taking that moment to pause and do that and look at that and go, if you're constantly the one that's always asking for help but you're not getting help in return, is it because you're not opening the door for help? Is it because you're not actually asking? Because there are some people as well where it's like having that difference, when you call it the white knight, whatever that might be, but having that power, and it ends up actually being almost like a power imbalance in relationships too, because it's like, if I'm always helping you and then you're not allowed to help me in return and you're not able, then it's like you kind of like the chits keep growing, or like, the bank balance keeps growing, and nobody wants to be in a relationship where it's not uneven. And so that ability to invite people in and to help share the load, is really, really important. And I love that about spoon sharing, right? And it's because it is that ebb and flow. It is that stuff's hard for you, stuff's hard for me. What is it that you actually need? Yeah.
The flip side of that too is, if you are in a relationship and you do find yourself to be the one that is constantly giving, and you don't have anybody else around you asking, what can I do for you? So you end up having no spoons left.
Yep.
I mean, that's probably a good opportunity to look around and go, do I need to be here?
Yeah, exactly. Do I need to be giving as much? Do I need to be doing it this way? And then I'm looking at my list too, the other last two neurodivergent love languages to cover off as well. So we've got deep pressure.
Yes.
This is not one for me.
I love this.
Do not touch me.
I love massages.
I know. And I'm like, so we go for a massage and Hannah's like, get in there, like get the massage done. I think a couple of times I had a couples massage or Bali, whatever.
If I don't feel something click or something, some sort of not release, I sort of feel like it's wasted effort.
It's wasted effort. Like if you can't feel like the pressure on your back through your front.
Yeah,
like,
massages do nothing.
And for me, and I'm like going and I'm like, pat me like you would the smallest kitten. Like
I'm not even touching you.
I immediately tensed up. She reached out to patch me and I'm like, but like pat me like you would the most gentle kitten. And it's like the massage therapist like, what is going on?
Is this a fetish?
It's like, this is a different type of massage. But like literally
there's no happy endings here.
There's none. But like, that difference in touch. So it can be that different, and what's safe for other people. But deep pressure can be really reassuring. And it can be something weird to ask for, like, squeeze me until I can't breathe, And it's like, again, me and hubby, he loves deep pressure, right? Like that's his happy space. He's like, just lay on top of me, like, or weighted blankets, stuff like that. And for me, I feel like I'm being suffocated and I can't breathe. But it's really interesting to note. And you're a big one on the pressure and the big hugs and the big squeezes. And,
absolutely. Yeah. There's something about a big bear hug that just feels so, like weirdly enough, I can breathe when I can't breathe.
Yep. Well, it's like, I can't breathe. My lungs have no room to expand, but my nervous system is really, really, really happy. Really, really happy with that
one. It's like a great exhale.
So that's one, but like even just like, but I think that's probably more of like the touch, right? In just a way that is comfortable for that other person, because we don't all like to be touched.
No. And when somebody says, I don't like to be touched, I don't like to be hugged.
Yep.
Believe them.
And it's so funny for me too, right? Like for years, like I'm not a touchy-feely person. I never was. But then I got conditioned that hugging is appropriate. And particularly as a woman, if you're not hugging people, it's like, oh, she's really cold. She doesn't care,
Yeah.
right? Like she's above us, you know. And so then I worked out that hugging for me is easier than being hugged, right? Like one is like, I can tolerate this. The other one is like, I think I'm going to die. And so I then started initiating and hugging other people by default, because it was just like, it was
It's the done
easier to
thing.
do that
Yep.
than be on the receiving end and all that. And the day that I stopped doing that was like the best day, honestly, ever, you know. And it's just, yeah, it's amazing when you let go of that expectation around
Yeah.
it. And it's, again, like, yeah, people are going to think I'm self-centered or aloof or, you know, above them, whatever that might be. But that's better than me feeling uncomfortable and unsafe in my body.
Yeah. I've actually noticed a really fantastic, it's not a trend. It feels like when something's new, but it's
Yeah.
not a trend. And so in new situations now, I'll ask people, are you a hugger or a shaker?
Yeah.
And it gives people the option, right?
Yeah.
There's not the assumption.
Yes.
And a lot of people are like, oh, of course I'm a hugger, you know? And then it's actually really lovely, but you're also setting it up as for yourself.
Yeah.
In the beginning that, you know, hey, this is a choice. It doesn't need to be, you know, the done way, the accepted way, the
Do it like that.
usual.
Yeah. I love that invitation. And for me, I introduce myself and I'm like, I'm Freya.
I'm not a hugger.
I'm not a hugger. And I'll forget your face. Be my friend.
I feel like you should have that badge.
Yeah, I'm not a hugger. I'll forget your face. Just a series of lapel pins down. And then the final one is the penguin pebbling. So
Yes.
that's like the sharing. It could be sharing experiences, but it could be sharing things like memes and having whole conversations in memes. Or if somebody likes something like, you know, I know you like penguins, or I know you like, there was a friend of mine collecting cactuses. It's another story. And, you know, like finding those things and giving them just because, you know. Or I saw this article, I thought about you. And as I say this, I think about that story I was sharing about my nana, right? I saw this article and I thought of you. But yeah, it's a,
Well, Mum does that to me all the time.
Yeah.
And, you know, it might be a week since we've seen each other. She's got 4 newspaper articles.
Yeah.
And it's all things like, some of them are fantastic sexology articles.
yeah,
Some are how women can get better super. I mean, and it's all love, right? It all
Yeah.
comes from this beautiful place of love, because there's a desire for you to have more, or like whether it's more knowledge,
yes,
how to be smarter about something, how
Yeah.
to protect yourself overseas.
Yeah.
It comes with that love and that care, because she worries.
Yeah. That's so sweet. I love that. And nice,
Yeah.
like nice supportive articles as well,
Yes.
as opposed to judgmental, like, you know, you're not
Lazy.
you're not lazy. You're not adulting enough. You're not doing it right. And yeah, and the penguin pebbling, and like in our house, we've got like a big nature display area where like literally, you know, we will collect things when we're out about. And it's like, you know, for my daughter, it's like, if you want to show your lover, give her a feather, or like a
She
nice
gave me
rock.
a feather and Banksia
You're in.
when I walked into school this morning.
You're in. That's so cute. I love that. And it's just like, you know, and that's the little things of, and finding ones that are unique and different. It might be a stick that's shaped a bit like a kangaroo, you know, but like looking at those things and doing that. And so we've now got a place in our house where we honour those
I
things. and
saw
put
that.
them
I thought
out.
it was fantastic.
It's really, really cool. And, you know, and of course for me, like I've sorted the rocks and the different collection things into nice categories in these like clear boxes. I might need to take a photo of this and put it somewhere where people can see it. So it's like, it's happy for me because it's all structured and organised
Yeah.
and categorised as well. But yeah, it's
But
about
she also
honouring
knows that you have taken it seriously.
Yeah.
And that you're not just going, oh, thanks, and piffing it away.
Yeah. So I know it's really cool. And look, I do cull some of them. I'm going to say like not every feather stays, because some of them are a little bit frightening. But like, yeah, it's that nice thing of showing the other person that you care. And so I think, you know, again, with those neurodivergent love languages, if you were to look at a lot of those from the outside looking in, not knowing what's going on, again, a lot of those can seem really just strange, but also as well just really self-centered.
Yeah.
Because it's about, you know, I'm giving you something that might appear meaningless to you, or I'm dumping knowledge, or I'm in the same room with you, but I'm not playing, I'm ignoring you, I'm not playing with you, I'm doing my own things, you know. So, yeah, some of those can seem really, really self-centered, but it's our way of showing love and care.
Well, because of the nature of ADHD and ASD and some of the other neurodiversity types, it can be really difficult to anticipate somebody else's actions, and
Yeah.
it's very difficult sometimes to read people's body cues.
Yes.
So it does come from a place of love because you just want the other person to be happy and you're showing them how you're happy.
Yeah. That's really sweet. So again, how we're misunderstood. So yeah, that's probably a good covering of self-centered and what that means to us. And so we invite again for our listeners who are listening along to maybe take a pause and think about how self-centered is showing up for you, and if any of that resonates. Yeah. And then next time we come back,
we're going to talk more about compassion and taking a different viewpoint and reframing.
Yeah. So stay tuned for part 2 of Self-Centered. You're listening to the NeuroSpice Life podcast
with Hanna and Freya, besties, brains, and more.
If you've enjoyed listening, follow us on YouTube or your favourite podcast app and share it with someone else who knows the sting of a sticky label.
We'll see you next time. Until then, stay spicy, stay wonderful.